interested on all of these eco challenges and wherever you may be, but seeing other communities, and she's done that the whole time. But if you look at her transition, now it's all about, wow, not only have I seen it, but I really don't like this, or this about where I was, and what can I do to make it different, whether it be giving bikes to girls in Africa who are abused because they have to walk, and then people take advantage of them because they're doing all the work at home, and they can get raped along the way to this long walk to school. Stuff like that drives her crazy. She wants to empower people, and she truly feels that giving them a bike empowers them like it's empowered her. And interesting. She went to Kyrgyzstan for one of her races. I don't know if you were at that one or not, but then I deployed to Kyrgyzstan, and how you interact with people there. Again, not a whole lot of public health work, not a whole lot of self-aid and buddy care for when they had issues over there. And when I went over in my military capacity, it was all about teaching and helping and trying to build. She's that same way. So as much as we're different, I think we're a lot the same. That desire to help others, to make a change in the world, whether it be in ourselves or whether it be in others, and I think both of us have developed for it being a lot more, as I say in the Air Force, service before self, but more about helping other people than it is helping yourself, to the point of sometimes exhaustion.
Mm-hmm. No, I can imagine.
But so it's weird. We have all these different parallels. Some people would say, "Oh gosh, they couldn't be more different." She's a professional athlete, and she's a dentist in the military. But I would say we're very, very similar in that drive and determination.
Mm-hmm. No, I can sense that, definitely. Let me think here. What's something about Rebecca that probably most people don't know that we might all find amusing, right? Like, she's obviously got fans, and they have expectations of her, or they've already built their opinion of her. Is there anything really funny about Rebecca that's kind of out of alignment with what's been written about her and what's been shown about her on TV and online?
I don't know if it's funny, but as organized as she looks when she's at a race and how prepared, it's always funny talking to her right before she has to leave to go do something, because she's always like, "Oh my gosh, I'm leaving in 4 hours. I haven't started doing anything. I haven't packed. I haven't written my script." I don't know if you watched her TED Talks, but we were with her over Thanksgiving, and she's like, "No, Sharon, you don't understand. I have to have like this all organized and done by tomorrow." and so sometimes when you're on the outside and you're watching people, you're just you totally think that this must be how they are all the time, and I've always found that funny about her. I don't like calling her the day before a trip, ever. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. You've known her for a long time, but it's so funny to watch. And again, it all comes together, but that just is what motivates her. I am completely the opposite. I have to plan everything forever in advance. There's no surprises. I'm never rushed. I'm to the airport, 2 hours early. And she is absolutely 100% exactly the opposite.
You were kinder about it than Greg. Greg just called her a slob.
It's just so funny because you don't get that impression when you're reading articles or you walk. She's so polished when she gives lectures or is filmed, and I just sit there and say, "Oh yeah, that is so not me." Yeah. But then you watch her, and then I'm like, well, in some ways we're more similar. But it is kind of funny. She's a little messy. And the only other thing I would say is when we were growing up, she just had the stinkiest shoes ever. But I think it was because she ran. But I always am like, put your shoes outside. Put your shoes outside. So
that's great. Stinky feet. That makes for a good chuckle. So you had mentioned just briefly the relationship that you both had with your grandparents, and they were bitter about how your dad passed away in the war. Did they talk to the two of you at all about your dad, their son?
Not much. A lot of times it would end up getting sad for them. They did talk a lot about music. And so the one place where we probably felt a little closer to my dad was their house. They had this big, giant house outside of about 20 miles from Princeton, New Jersey. So it was in right outside a little town called Lambertville. I don't know if you know where that is. But we would go there in the summers, and it was like a big plantation house, and there was a pond where you could fish, and they had bees, and you could pick raspberries. And my sister and I went a lot in the summer together. And my dad had lived in the garage in one of in like this little side room, and there were things that he had built which I had never known. He had been a wood, he'd like to make little chairs or a little cabinet, and I thought that was neat. And then they would talk about his music, but they never talked about anything else. But that was some place where at least he had lived there, and we felt, I think, a little bit closer. Did she talk about it? They called it Rushville.
No, I haven't talked. Rebecca will be my final interview before we kind of wrap up the article, and I've gotten a lot from her, over the years and over this last year especially. But no, I haven't had my interview with her yet, so I'm compiling all of these questions to present to her.
Yeah, so ask her about Rushville. That was probably one place where we knew he'd been, where we knew he had grown up, and we'd get little bits and pieces. And a lot of people say, why didn't you ask? I mean, it's funny, according to my mom, she tried to tell us, but we never listened. Neither Rebecca or I have that memory at all. Uh-huh. We don't have any memory of her trying to tell us something about our dad. So it was we just never really talked about it.
Yeah. With the grandparents, did they ever say, "Oh, your dad would have been so proud of you"? Were they?
Never. I never remember that. No.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe Rebecca does. For us, anytime they brought it up, anytime they started thinking about him, it would just make them sad, and so they didn't talk about. No, they definitely didn't.
Yeah. What else? For you personally, did you ever think about your dad and be like, "Oh, I hope he's proud of what I'm doing in the military"?
All the time. It's what keeps me going, and every time I'm in a job, I just want to do the best I can so that he would be proud, and I hope he's up there somewhere glad that this is what I chose to do. But every single day thinking about him, and I miss him every single day. I think that might have been another little bit of a difference for Rebecca. She was definitely a mama's girl, and I definitely was not. So her relationship with my mom has always been stronger than mine, and so I guess in my mind I always figured I must have been the daddy's girl, and so I grew strength from that. And so when I came in and I started learning bits and pieces of him, that made me want to stay, and I wanted to be something that if he had stayed alive, that he would have said, "Oh wow, I'm so proud of where you've gone." And every time I'm in a job, if I have a day where I feel like I fell short, I think about him and try to do better the next day.
Mm. Do you have any resentment towards your mom? They divorced prior to him going off to war, correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't say resentment for her, but when you say why didn't we bring it up, I think a part of me doesn't want to know why they divorced. It's been interesting for me to watch her open up about everything right now, and sometimes I feel like it's okay for you to open up, but don't act like the widow. So I don't want to call it resentment, but why now? Why does she talk about it now? And I think that both my sister and I sometimes don't ask some questions just because I'm not sure I want that memory of it. If that makes sense.
It does. Do you think Rebecca pondered her dad much? It's one thing to not talk about an issue. It doesn't mean that you don't think about it. Do you think she thought about it, and do you think she was, curious of like, hey, would Dad be proud of me for doing this, for the races, the mountain biking, and now the humanitarian efforts? Do you think she considers that on a regular basis?
Well, I definitely